Great to be back with another edition of the USF Football Radio Show. Coming off the open week, we are getting ready for the Bulls and Tulsa. Nice early start, 12 noon on Saturday at Raymond James Stadium. Head coach Jeff Scott joins us. Coach, this was the open week that we had talked about, using it to full advantage, trying first of all to heal up, but also to prepare for the second half of the season. Take us through this week and how you've gotten this team ready for Saturday and beyond.
Yeah, there's several things that you really want to accomplish during an open week. First of all, I felt like the timing of this open week could not be better after a really challenging start to the season, and with some of the injuries and things that we had. This is really kind of a good time to be able to come back. And, really what we did this past week is really kind of go back and focus on us. Now that we've had 5 games, to really be able to look at, what did we do well and what do we need to improve on. And, the big message to our players is, hey, we've got 7 games still in front of us. We've played 1 conference game for the whole season, and if we'll take the lessons learned through the good and the bad of the first 5 weeks and apply it this week during our open week and prepare, then we'll have a chance to have success here the last 7 weeks. So that was kind of the number one focus, was internally on us as far as execution, and staff-wise also we took some time to kind of reevaluate. You know more about your team now after 5 games and being in some difficult situations, and what have we done well, and maybe what tweaks do we need to make from a scheme standpoint, coaching standpoint, to put our guys in the best position to have success. And then the final piece is to rest, because once we kick it off this coming Saturday, we're going 7 weeks in a row, and there's not another opportunity for a break. And so I think we had a good balance with that. We practiced Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then we were able to do some community service, kind of take time out from the football piece here and go out and do community service on Tuesday with Habitat for Humanity. So that was really good. And then we're able to give our guys a couple of days of rest this weekend and showed back up and got off to a really good start so far today.
Coach, when you're at a place on defense, when you recognize that tackling is not great right now and you guys can improve your tackling, how do you work on that in the bye week, but still being in a position where you want to make sure you're taking care of your guys and they can't make that contact with each other? Obviously, and that's the best way to improve your tackling.
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure. You could be old school and just say, hey, we're going to go out and tackle and make yourself feel better, and then you'll go out there and be starting 4 or 5 walk-ons for the rest of the year, So really what you do is you coach it in the meetings and point out the reasons why we didn't have success getting the guys to the ground fundamentally, and then you come out and practice, and really what everybody does during the season. Very few people go out and tackle their own people during the season, just because you don't have the opportunity to recover if you lose a guy with shoulders or knees or things like that. But we have bags that we tackle. We have donuts, these big rolling donuts that you tackle, and then what it turns into is when we do what we call thud, which is full speed, wrap up, hit, just don't go to the ground. Are we in a good position as we're going to thud? Do we have our knees bent? Are we in a position where we're able to wrap up? And those are things you're coaching on the field and come back in the meetings and coach. But typically, as you know, Sam, it's about getting your feet in the right position and being able to break down and have control of your body and things that we can do. So we did put a lot of focus on that, but it definitely is a challenge. Really, your best time to work on your tackling is in the off season, in the spring and during fall camp. But once you kind of get into season, you have to kind of pick and choose what you're able to do.
The offense has evolved a little bit in the last couple of games. There's a great stat in the notes for this week talking about the length of the offensive drives in the last couple of games. The last 8 scoring drives, averaging about 70 yards, averaging well over 5 minutes. For a tempo offense, that might not necessarily be what you predict, but it's been very effective. It's certainly helped out the defense as well. It's become a little bit of a grinded out offense, and it's worked well.
Yeah, I think one thing that you have to do as coaches is look at your current team and be willing to adjust. I think one mistake you can make as a coach is, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're going to do. no matter what. And we want to be a fast-paced offense. We want to play very fast and quick and quick strikes and those type of things. But really looking at kind of where our team is, I think our offense has been a little bit ahead of our defense, and part of it has to do with the depth that we're able to have on offense compared to the depth that we have on defense. And so that's part of my decisions and kind of my direction to Charlie and the offense. And it's not that we're not trying to score. We're trying to score every time we snap the ball, but maybe to be able to keep our defense off the field with some limited bodies over there, I think is definitely to our advantage right now. Hopefully we get in a position down the road in future years where we're a lot deeper and maybe more successful on defense, where we can be able to go fast and do everything we want to do offensively. But I think right now what you're seeing is we're trying to do things from an offense, defense, and special teams perspective to give us a chance to win the game. And each week that may be a little bit different depending on your opponent, who you're playing, and maybe where your matchups are the strongest, or where maybe you're not in a good position from a matchup standpoint. And those are things that we're always evaluating as coaches. And but make no mistake, we want to score. There's no doubt about that. But I think what we're trying not to do is go out there, run 3 plays very fast, and get 27 seconds off the clock and put the defense right back out there. You do that too many times against good offenses when you're maybe not having the success you want on defense, then the game gets out of hand really quickly. So we're still trying to figure out the best plan of attack for us moving forward.
Coach, what can you say about the progress of some of those players that we have seen dinged, battered, and bruised? Obviously, you got some guys that won't return this year, but some guys that the fans are really looking to see back in the lineup.
Yeah, I think probably the most progress that we've been able to see is on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Weaver's a guy that we knew going into the season could be a talented guy, and he's got more opportunity this year to do things. I think also DeMarcus Gregory, is a transfer that came in from Ole Miss, and you've been able to see him evolve. And then, this past week or last week there in the last game against SMU, you're able to see a little bit of Jimmy Horn. I mean, he's a guy that we've been really high on. There's done some really good things in practice, but hasn't happened maybe as quick as we all want it to. And then I think the success that he had in the SMU game is something hopefully that he'll build off of. And then obviously at the running back position, Jaron Mangum's a guy that's really had some success and been a guy whenever we get down there in the red zone can put the ball in. And then Timmy McClain has done some good things. Obviously, the last game he missed a couple throws that he's been making for us, and I know he's anxious to get back out there and be able to complete those balls and keep moving forward. But I think that overall the last couple of games we've been able to kind of see a glimpse of the future. I think a lot of our players that are performing well for us right now are young guys that are going to be around here for a while, and so that's encouraging. And, I think that the biggest thing is defensively, we got to get a couple of guys in the secondary back. We're hoping to get T.J. Robinson back. We've missed him a little bit. And then also, I don't know if it'll be this week or next week, but Christian Williams is a really important piece back there in the secondary, hoping to get him back. And also, hopefully Mekhi LaPointe will be back to being 100%. He was probably somewhere in that 80 to 85% there last week against SMU. So I think being able to get everybody defensively back to full strength will allow us to be able to finish some drives and get guys off the field like we need to.
I think a lot of fans were excited about Horn's game last time out against SMU. What is that McClain-Horn relationship like? Obviously, all the success in high school, they commit at virtually the same time to come to USF and stay together. Are they as close and as intuitive on the field as we might think they are?
Yes, I think any time that you play together in high school, that carries over when you come to the next level. And you just have a trust and understand, especially when you're talking about a quarterback and a receiver. I mean, they have to be able to count on being on the same page and understanding where the ball is going to be and where the route's going to be and the depth and all these type of things. But without Timmy coming here, Timmy committed a little bit earlier. That really helped us with Jimmy. Jimmy had some strong. Jimmy was kind of a little bit of a late bloomer because he hurt his hand his junior year and really didn't play his junior year. And, Timmy and his dad were communicating with us during the senior year about Jimmy and being able to watch him. So I think having Timmy committed to come as a mid-year definitely helped us with that. But yeah, it's been great to see them. And whenever I think about our team, and obviously we're trying to do everything we can to win each of these games moving forward and have the most successful year we can have this year. You can also look at it from a lens of the next couple of years, right? And being able to build it. Sometimes it's tough when you're playing with a true freshman quarterback, talented true freshman. You're going to have some good times and some bad times, but it's going to pay off for the future, because those freshmen turn into sophomores, turn into juniors and seniors, and that's really, you kind of look at our league, and whenever you have those older, experienced quarterbacks that have played a lot of ball, that's usually when you have your most success. So I think we're doing a lot of things right now as far as preparing our team for the games that are in front of us, but also looking at it from a program perspective of really trying to develop some of those younger players for the future.
In the midst of you guys, obviously trying to get better as a team and prepare for a long stretch of conference play, how important was it for you to get your team out in the community this week and see some other faces other than their classmates and their teammates, and essentially put their hearts back into this community?
Yeah, it was huge. And I'll say this, after being here for a little bit over 18 months now, one thing that I've noticed about the Bay Area is there's a lot of people that give back. I mean, this is a community that is really built on service and people serving each other and helping each other, and that's something that's really stood out to me in my time here. Last year I had some plans to do some things, and obviously with the pandemic we were a little bit limited and had to kind of protect our bubble with our team. And but I think that's crucial. And really the big message to our players is, number one, all of us are presented with an opportunity and a platform, right, to represent this university and represent the athletics program and our state and here in the community. And how can we use this platform to make a difference, and not just the games and the excitement of wins and all those type of things, but how can we truly make a difference in our community? And I think it sends a strong message to our players that, hey, we're going to take one day and we're not going to do any football today, and we're going to get on the buses and we're going to go down and we're going to serve and help our community. And then the second message, the thing that I hope our players take from this is, eventually, as you know, Sam, and you leave and you graduate and you move on, and then you move out into, hopefully, many of them are going to stay in this community, but some may go to other communities. And I really want them to be able to lean back on these experiences, and maybe that will motivate them and encourage them to continue that throughout their life in whatever community they're in. And so I was really pleased. I mean, I watched our guys, and it's one thing just to go kind of check a box and take a couple pictures doing something, and it's another thing to truly be engaged with it and have the right heart of service. And that's exactly what I saw from our guys, and I look forward to doing many of those things in the future.
Bulls in Tulsa, Saturday, 12 noon at Raymond James Stadium. We'll talk a little bit about that game coming up. Special Teams Coordinator Daniel Prato will join us later in the hour. More with Coach Scott after this break on the USF Football Radio Show. 2 straight at home coming up for the Bulls. 12 noon against... Let me do that again. Sorry, I gave you an edit there.
That's all right. It's the first one in 7 weeks here. You can deal with it.
2 straight coming up at home for the Bulls. They'll have the Tulsa Golden Hurricane in town Saturday, 12 noon. And then Temple the week after that. And that game time has been announced. That will be a 7 p.m. game for the Bulls and Temple 1 week from Saturday. All right, Coach, let's talk a little bit about Tulsa. They struggled early in the season, but had a really good outing against Memphis their last time out. They're kind of like the Bulls in the sense in that they run their running backs by committee, have a stable of guys that can really move the football, and they look good against the Tigers.
Yeah, I think the first thing when you maybe look at their record before this past week, you may get something in your mind, then you turn the video on and you go, okay, maybe not. I mean, all these guys, I think there's 18 returning starters. I mean, it's incredible. Their defense is all mostly all seniors and graduates. There may be 2 juniors in there. But I think early in the year they played maybe Ohio State and Oklahoma State. So they played some good teams early on, and and they've they've been improving. Memphis has been having a really good year. Memphis beat Mississippi State earlier in the year, and for Tulsa to go win that game the other night, that was definitely impressive. Their running back, like you mentioned, just went over 3,000 career yards. And they're really big. We saw them last year. And the thing I remember about that game last year is their size. They're very big, size, athleticism. They've done a really good job in recruiting and training and all those things. And when I turned the video on, you saw a lot of the similarities maybe from last year outside of some of the early opponents that they had. So, it'll be another big challenge for us. One our guys are definitely looking forward to. And, the big message that I've given our guys, it's no different than what we said before the season. It's really about us and about our execution. And like I said a little earlier, if we'll take the lessons that we learned from the first 5 games and apply it into this game and play a little bit smarter and have a little bit better execution, then we'll have a chance to have success. And that's really regardless of who you play. That should hold true. But definitely a talented team. Their quarterback played really well this past week, and it'll be another good challenge for us.
Coach, I'm very curious to know, when you take a look at what Tulsa is doing well, you always carry the mantra, it's about us, it's about us. There are some things that you can exploit them from a scheme standpoint, but there are also some things that USF is doing really well. How do you find that midpoint and say, you know what, let's keep this momentum, continue going in this direction, or let's choose to exploit the opportunities that we have against Tulsa? Yeah,
I think the biggest thing, especially offensively, is you need to always have the flexibility within your scheme and within your offense to maybe look and find the best matchups. And, some people may look at some of the stats Tulsa has, and maybe they haven't been ranked as high against the pass, but there's a reason for that, because it's hard to run the ball.
Exactly.
So everybody throws the ball all the time against them because they're so big. I mean, their nose guard's about 380 pounds, I believe. And so they're very, very good at the offensive or defensive line and linebackers. And so, again, when people are going to play them, they're saying, well, there's not a lot of opportunity to run inside. We're going to have to throw the ball. And so you now that you kind of get 5-6 games in, you get a lot of video evidence of kind of what people have tried to do and how they play. But they've got a really good defensive scheme. And like I said, there are a lot of veteran players on that side. But, ultimately what we have to do every week, we go watch the video, is kind of see maybe where we have the best matchups from a personnel standpoint and from a scheme standpoint. And then, there's going to come times that you have to run the ball. And so how are we going to run the ball against a 7-8 man front whenever those times come? But ultimately, what gives us the best chance to win? And then, what are we doing well? So there's a lot of things that kind of go into that. And then defensively, is trying to figure out, be able to stop the run, number one, because they're really big up front, and they have 2 very talented backs. And then, we're going to have to be able to match up on the outside, because they're going to play with some wide splits and really force you to play some man coverage. And then eventually, when you get everybody up there against the run, it's going to put some pressure on your guys on the back end to be able to hold up in some of those man coverage situations. So, that's kind of the cat and mouse that you deal with each week. But I think now that we kind of have a little bit more video evidence of what some other people have done against them, that's really for our coaches to put together the best scheme possible for our guys to go out and execute.
We're going to talk about special teams in depth later in the show. This USF team has some things to hang their hats on with special teams. You got a couple of block kicks. Place kicker has been perfect throughout the season. You've talked about depth, and that can be a challenge on special teams too. You might not be able to run out some of the guys you would like to run out because they're getting so many snaps on offense or defense. How do you manage that every week to decide, first of all, just who is on the field on an average special teams play?
Yeah, well, first of all, Daniel Prato, who I believe you are going to talk to here in a few minutes, he does an excellent job. We're one of probably a handful of teams that has a special teams coordinator where that's their sole responsibility, and he does an outstanding job each week of again, looking at our personnel, and typically the offense and defensive coaches kind of get their preference on their guys, and then it kind of gets to Daniel. And like you said, when those injuries start popping up, then that's when, it all kind of runs down to the special teams coordinator, and he's having to move some guys around and put them in different positions. But, one thing we do, that may be a little different than everybody else is we keep all of our players in the special teams meetings, because there may be a player that this week is not on the punt team, and next week he may be on the punt team due to some injuries or different things. And so the guys need to be keeping up with it and being able to follow up with, each and every week the different opportunities that they could get. But, yeah, I would say overall I've been pleased with a lot of the consistencies. There's a few areas that we still haven't had the success that we want. Kickoff return is one of those. But punt return, we've done a really good job so far and had some opportunities to be able to block some kicks. And then, like you said, field goal and field goal block have done a really solid job for us. And then Spencer Schrader has also done a good job of kicking the ball in the end zone for some touchbacks. So, I want to see that group continue to become even a little bit more consistent because ultimately in some of these games we're getting ready to play here these next couple of weeks, the special teams could be the deciding factor in a win.
Is it at all a challenge to keep guys elated to play special teams? I mean, I remember during my playing days, you did it if you have to, obviously, if you were a starter, but you weren't necessarily excited to go out and run down on special teams.
Yeah, that's again, y'all are going to be able to spend some time with Daniel. He's got a lot of energy, and he does a good job of trying to make special teams, an enjoyable part of the game. Mm-hmm. And, I tell guys all the time, hey, if you start on special teams, you're a starter. You're not just a starter if you start on defense or offense. If you start on punt team, hey, I'm a starter. I mean, that's an important play in the game, right? And so one thing that Daniel does is he shows the guys, really uses a lot of examples of guys that have gone on to play in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And as you know, unless you're a first-round pick, franchise guy, special teams is what allows you to hang on.
Right.
And, I've got several guys that I've coached through the years that maybe were a fourth wideout or, a fifth linebacker or something like that, but they had a big impact on special teams and were able to play a long time.
Yeah.
And so I think showing those guys some of those examples and again, making a big emphasis to our team and really kind of celebrating the success that we have there, I do feel like our guys have bought into that. I definitely and I give Daniel a lot of credit for creating a culture within our team where the guys are excited about the special teams plays. And I think it's just a matter of time before we see some of those plays help create a victory for us.
Back to the offense, 2 more touchdowns last time out for Jaron Mangum. He's kind of the closer of the group coming in on short yardage situations. He's more talented than that. He can do a lot of things, but that's kind of been his niche in this first half of the season. Now 9 touchdowns, and everybody's kind of taking a look at the record, 18 in the regular season by Quinton Flowers. He's already halfway there. It's great to see him succeed. We had a chance to talk to him on the last show, and he is a guy that the opposition knows what's coming sometimes. When you're in a short yardage situation, they still haven't been able to stop him.
Yeah, and just like you said, we don't look at him just as a goal line running back that sometimes you may have a big fullback or something that you don't let him play until you get down there. And we definitely don't look at him that way at all. He's done a really good job in some open field opportunities as well. And for him just getting here, I really like the progress that he's made. But I think his size and vision and power and those type of things is maybe a little bit different than some of the other guys that have different skill sets. That was something we were missing last year for sure. And so he's kind of found that role. And whenever we get down there, we put him in, and he's been successful in majority of those situations. And hopefully some of those other guys will get some opportunity as well, and be able to score before we get down there inside the 10. But they'll say, and don't try to fix it if it's not broken, right? And so we're going to continue to feed him down there and allow him to continue to rack up those touchdowns.
What type of guy is Mangum off the field? And I'll tell you why I ask. Whenever a guy starts having success, he's immediately kind of, trajected into the leadership role. So is he a guy who you see as a capable leader? I mean, obviously he has a ton of football left to play here. He's a new player for USF, but do you see him as a guy, obviously a huge guy at this, who can be a leader for this team in the future?
Yes, and I actually saw it a couple games ago, one of our last home games. and against FAMU, I believe it was, and he was over there on the sideline, really encouraging the guys, and not just talking to the offensive line, which obviously is something running backs do, but over there talking to the quarterback and the wideouts. And for somebody, it's always a difficult transition. When you come in as a transfer, it's a little different than coming in as a freshman. You played some ball, you've been in school for a few years, and you're coming into a team where they've been playing together for a few years, and so trying to kind of figure that way out. He's done a really good job of kind of waiting for his turn and then making the most of it. And then, just like you said, when you have success, then all of a sudden you earn some more credibility. And the way he works in practice and the way he is every day, he absolutely he's turned into one of our leaders right now, which has been good. We've needed some more guys to step up outside of just the returning offensive linemen, and I hope that will continue to increase here throughout the rest of the season.
Coach, thanks. Great to be back at it. Great to be home for 2 straight weeks as well. We'll see you out there Saturday.
Great. Thank you.
Coach Jeff Scott joining us. It's the Bulls coming up against Tulsa Saturday, 12 noon at Raymond James Stadium. Special Teams Coordinator Daniel Prato joins us when we return on the USF Football Radio Show. Bulls back home at Raymond James Stadium 2 weeks in a row. 12 noon Tulsa this Saturday, 7 p.m. the following Saturday against Memphis. Special Teams Coordinator Daniel Prato joins us now. Coach, we were talking special teams with Coach Scott, and I was stunned that the offense and the defense gets their first pick of players, and you don't get the first pick for guys to go on special teams. You got to change that.
Yeah, I'm gonna take what I can get and go from there. He's the boss, but yeah, no, I mean, shoot, that's part of it, and we've had some guys doing a really good job, and we utilize guys when we can and when we feel we can use their talents in certain situations. But it's been good. Guys are stepping up and doing a really good job.
How about one of your favorite guys, Brock, who hasn't played as much on special team as he has in the past because he's been playing a little more defense? How proud of you are of him for filling in on defense and obviously making a show the way he's done these past few weeks?
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's he's just an unbelievable young man all around, and what he's been able to do on teams in the past and still on teams now, but then having to flip over and play almost an entire game, right, every single rep, and then still, hey, Brock, I need you on this one, or hey, here, and being able to balance that back and forth has been great. But I've just been so proud of him and his dedication, and continuing to get better on all sides of it as he goes. It's been great.
You have an interesting situation at punter this year. You have a guy, Andrew Stokes. We've marveled at how he can drive the ball downfield in practice. Tremendously strong leg, but he hadn't played a lot of football, at least not a lot of American football. Mm-hmm. What's your philosophy in dealing with a player like that who, he's an older guy, he's got a world of talent, he's got a great attitude, but he is far from a veteran of American football? How do you handle something like that?
The first thing I'll say is he has an incredible attitude and appreciation for his opportunity, and that's the most important thing. He appreciates Coach Scott and myself and everyone giving him the opportunity to come here and play. The next thing I'd say is that I kind of enjoy the fact that he doesn't know a lot. At the beginning, the first thing basically all he knew was, I'm going to stand behind that guy, he's going to give me the ball, and I'm going to go make this happen. And that's really how it started. And then now we tease him in meetings, and we ask him questions that are, deep football questions that he shouldn't know, but he's starting to gather the information. But I really enjoy the fact that he doesn't have all of these different experiences that you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. He's new. He's like just a big piece of clay that we get to mold and have fun with, and he has a great attitude about it, and he has a drive to be successful that obviously we need to continue to grow and get better every single day, and he's got a great attitude and mindset about that, which has been a lot of fun to coach.
You coach obviously the special teams unit and the kickers and the punters. Obviously, they have the physical ability, but sometimes you see guys get into a span of struggles, right? Mm-hmm. What can you say about the mental approach to the game And what have you learned personally that helps you enable your players when they can't necessarily get it done from a mental aspect, although you know they're physically capable?
Yeah, I'd say one, at this level in college, there's a reason they're here. They have a great skill set. They've been very successful doing something. Obviously, Stokes is kind of an outlier there, but all these other guys have played in games, been very successful, and done it for a really, really long time. The biggest thing for me is building confidence, and it's the confidence that they have to have, right? I'm the external piece. Now, I'm going to give it to them and create it and build it, but they've got to create it within themselves every single second of every single day in everything that they do. And the other thing is we don't know when or how many opportunities we're going to get. I'll use a kicker for an example. He might get one opportunity to kick a field goal in a game, and it could come in the first quarter. Everybody wants to talk about the one that there's 2 seconds left in the game. He might get one in the first quarter, and it ends up being the difference in the ball game. That was the game-winning kick for us. So we don't know when we're going to be called upon. I go through pregame every time with the long snappers and the punters, and I go tell them, I say, hey, I wish you the best of luck today. I hope you don't play. I mean, at the end of the day, if our punter and long snapper aren't playing, it's a pretty good situation. But I think the mental approach of it and the confidence that they have to whenever and how many times we're called upon, it's time for us to go out there and execute. Yeah.
All assistant coaches, as they come up through the ranks, have a lot of different jobs, working with the offense, working with the defense. Is special teams a good match for you? You know, Coach mentioned that this is a little bit unusual here at USF, having someone dedicated solely to special teams.
Yeah, I don't know it any other way. I think this is season 12 just doing teams. I think overall it's about season 18. This is 12 coordinating special teams, and I love it. I got into it many years ago, and the biggest thing that I loved about it is I get to coach everybody. I tell the team, I mean, they got to be responsible for one person. I get 88 starters that I'm going to put out on the field. When you include the big four, your kickoff return, punt, block, PAT, field goal block, and then you got must and hands out there as well. So there's 88 different positions that we'll put out there on the field. So the biggest thing for me is that I get a chance to touch each individual on the team in some form or fashion, coaching special teams. So I absolutely love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Coach, when you take a look at Tulsa, where do the opportunities lie? I think there's a combination between the opportunities and, an opportunity for you all to keep getting better. But where do the opportunities lie, and what part of their game are you guys looking to exploit?
And I think the biggest thing you said right there is opportunity.
Yeah.
And what we utilize, or what we say over and over and over, is we've got to be in the right place, the right time, when the opportunity presents itself. We just don't know when it's going to happen.
Right.
You don't know if it's a pump block, right? That we've been there close on times, but it just hasn't quite happened yet. Is it going to be a big return because we were in position to make the right blocks with the combination of a great punt that it timed out properly? So if I were to put my thumb on it and say, hey, it's going to happen, I don't know. Right. That's the thing I want our guys to understand. But when you look back at a game, you always look back on it and say, oh, that play there, or oh, that play there.
Right.
It's easy after the game to say, well, those 10 to 12 plays determine the outcome. Mm-hmm. We've got to play every single play like it's going to be one of those 10 to 12.
Right.
If we do that, I think we can be in position to have a chance to change the outcome of the game on special teams. So that's the mindset that we've got to take, and the approach that hopefully can give us that opportunity.
5 minutes left at SMU. Team has just scored a touchdown. The team elects to go for an onside kick attempt. Take us through the mechanism of that on the sideline, how that decision is made, how it's implemented, how you prepare for it in that very, very short window of time.
Typically, it's done well before that. Coach Scott and I will have a conversation. Obviously, he's making those decisions, and we're running it by each other. What do we think? What's going on there? And then we've communicated that to the entire team prior to. So we've gone down, the strength staff, myself, we're all going through, checking off. Okay, make sure, okay, I got him, and I'll go tell all the guys, be alert. If we score, this is what we're doing. And then we go right down the line and make sure everybody's ready to roll, and then it's time to go execute.
One of the things that Coach Scott told us was sometimes you throw on pro ball film to teach your players on how to get it done. What teams do you like, and why? I guess obviously there's a correlation between what teams are doing it right, but what teams and what film are you showing your guys when you want to teach them how to get it done?
The first thing I'll say is that the neat part about special teams that's completely different than offense and defense is no matter what situation happens out there, I get to choose what side I want to be on. Whereas offense, defense, you only get to be on one. So I always choose the side that did something successful. That's obviously the positive. But obviously we can learn from both sides of it. And right now, over the bye week, we had players just texting me like crazy. Hey, Coach, you see this? Hey, Coach, you see that? So we're getting them to learn through other people, through them watching film. Whether, I don't care if it's high school, college, NFL, what we're looking for as opposed to a certain team or a certain play is we're looking for specific teachable moments.
Right.
We're looking for things that occur no matter what team or what level that we can teach off of. And right now I'm loving the feedback I'm getting from the players, from the text messages. Hey, Coach, you see this? Hey, Coach, you see that? That tells me as a team we're making progress, and as a team we're learning from other people's either great plays or maybe a team made a mistake. And we just want to make sure we're on the great play side of it.
Right.
Arkansas, Colorado, among your stops before this, you've had some interesting venues. Who influenced you as a coach? Who did you really learn from?
I would say when we bring it up that way, I think about time at Colorado. I spent 3 years at Colorado, and Mike McIntyre, who's now in our conference, he's the defensive coordinator over at Memphis. He was very impactful in my growth, I believe, as a coach. And the time we spent together, those 3 years, I feel like I grew a lot in my details and situational football. He has an NFL background that I think was very big in there's always an answer to every situation. Obviously, there's a fine line of too much and obviously not enough. But I thought he did a great job of helping me grow in those areas to continue to be successful.
Yeah, Coach, I guess the last question is, when you look at the group of guys that you have on special teams, offense, defense, who's that guy, the bell cow, right? We talked about Brock Nichols last year, but who's that guy on special teams for you, or a group of guys that are really getting it done right now and that you know you can rely on when it's time to get the job done?
Yeah, the two guys that jump out right now in my mind are Logan Berryhill, who's doing a great job in a lot of different areas, and then Brian Battie. Brian Battie's been in a situation where he's had the ball in his hands. He's been in a situation where he's running down on kickoff and making tackles. So I think those are the two that immediately jump out, and there's a plethora of guys that are contributing. But right now, on the last couple of weeks, those guys have been starting on all 4 units and doing a good job in all those areas.
Coach, thanks. Good luck on Saturday.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
Special Teams Coordinator Daniel Prato, stay with us. We will stay with Special Teams and visit with punter Andrew Stokes when we return on the USF Football Radio Show. Bulls back in action Saturday, 12 noon against Tulsa at Raymond James Stadium. Our pregame will begin at 10 a.m. Looking forward to that one. First of 2 in a row at home, and a guy we hope we don't see too much of on the field in that game is punter Andrew Stokes, but he's been terrific for the Bulls, native of Australia. Andrew, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Now I'm going to go to my phone here, so forgive me, but I would like to know what a handball is, what a disposal is, what a mark is, what a hit out is. These are all things you have accumulated statistics in Australian rules football, and I would love to try to convince you that we understood any of that, but we don't. But that's where your background is, a lot more of that than American football.
Yeah, it is. They're all basically the exact same things as what you guys, well, most of what the sport has done or does over here, but they're just called funny names because that's apparently what we like to do in Australia, is name things a little bit funny. So a mark is just basically a catch. That's it. It's the simplest way to put it. Handball is just passing the ball by your hand. You've just got to hit the ball. So another one of those things, disposal, is just a touch. When you get a touch, you accumulate your disposals. And then a hit out is obviously the two players. It's sort of like a jump ball, like in the NBA, and they sort of tap the ball. So that's just the simple way of a hit out.
There you go. We know it all now.
Thanks for the education.
No
We're going to have to give you your own segment.
Yeah, we got a few things to talk about.
Yeah, so, it's interesting because the average young man in America grows up and they hear of Australia. They think of a very far away place with foreign animals, kangaroos, onion rings, maybe Aussie chips or whatever, right? And so for you, it's kind of unfair because you walk into this world where everybody has this preconceived notion of who you are and where you come from. What has been the most exciting thing about your culture and where you're from that you've wanted to show people here in America, especially your teammates?
I don't know if there's any one thing. I think for me the biggest part is obviously a lot of the guys are fairly young and haven't done too much travelling outside of the country. So for me it's just obviously changing people's ideas a little bit on how vicious kangaroos are or aren't, and just sort of, I guess, showing them different things that I've learnt from my background in I guess our culture in Australia, and I guess just teaching them about where I'm from and I guess just another place in the world for them.
Tell us about how this came about. There's a group called Pro Kick, and they have really brought some talented punters to America. Your predecessor here at USF, Trent Schneider, had a very good Bulls career. What's been the routine of getting through to America and finding out that you had this opportunity and then settling on USF? Yeah,
it's a pretty good pathway, I'll have to say that. It's obviously Pro Kick Australia is run by two coaches, Nathan Chapman and John Smith, and I mean they've been doing it for years now. That they've got a pretty good little pathway going for a lot of Aussie guys who are looking to get into the sport. But yeah, basically you get in contact with them, and depending on where you are in what state, you'll have an assessment where you go out and I guess someone will watch you kick and just see that I guess the fundamentals are there and that you can actually, you've got some ability behind you, because they don't want to waste anyone's time over here. They don't want to waste their own time, and they don't want to waste your time as well. So I had a few assessments with them, and they were pretty keen to get me to Melbourne, to move over to Melbourne, because I was obviously on the other side of the country. So they wanted me to move to Melbourne and basically join the academy, and you go to practice 7 days a week. So you're in the gym trying to get stronger. Obviously the lifting side of things is a lot different to our sports back home, so they want to try and speed that up and have us not be so far behind when we get here. But then you're punting and learning the craft, and I guess really trying to get yourself, I guess, a step ahead for when you get here, so you're sort of ready. But I moved over there probably 2 months into 2020, and then COVID hit, so I sort of ended up moving back home to Perth, obviously be with the family, and when you sort of don't know what's going on. So I moved back over there, and luckily they had a guy who did my assessment, Tyson Beattie, and he was really good. I think he came over here and went to University of Indiana, so he's obviously been through the process as well and understood it all, and he's got a really good background in punting. So I trained with him for the year, and then I guess while I was back in Perth, from the film that I'd put together and sent around, that USF and Coach Prato and Coach Scott sort of reached out and said that they wanted to offer me a scholarship. So I was more than happy to take it. I think you take what you can get from back home, especially not having played a single minute of a game before. So when an opportunity comes like that and they offer you a scholarship, then it was too hard to say no.
Yeah. Speaking of family, how has your family taken to this transition? I mean, obviously, and I have parents, right, who are from foreign countries, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of up to you to tell your family about the experience in America, how well everybody's treating you, etc. So how has your family taken to you being on this side of the world?
Yeah, it's tough. We're a pretty close family, so it's pretty tough, obviously, being on the other side of the world. I think we're just lucky that you've got the technology these days to be able to FaceTime and be able to talk to them each week. So, I mean, as tough as it is, it's a small sacrifice to be able to fulfill out certain dreams that I have of playing college football and seeing where that takes me. So, and also getting an education as well. So, as tough as it is, especially with all the COVID still around, the restrictions being so heavy in Australia, I sort of don't know exactly when I'm going to be able to get to go back home again, or when I'm going to get to see them again, or potentially when they can come over here. So yeah, it's one of those things. It is tough, but I know that they're all super proud of being able to do this, and I know they've, as tough as it was when I first mentioned doing pro kick and moving to the other side of the world, yeah, they're on board now, and they support it fully.
It's great.
What's it like walking into a team like this? I mean, you're new to the country. You're a little bit older. You're in your mid-20s and got a lot of 18 and 19-year-olds on this team. It's got to be an interesting experience. How have they accepted you?
Yeah, it was good. It wasn't so bad when Trent was here, because he used to take all the old jokes, and I used to throw a few of them at him as well. But then he graduated in May, and they all started coming towards me. So. I mean, it's a bit of fun. The boys are great. They're all got a good head on them, and they're all really mature and look out for you. So yeah, it was a different dynamic coming in as a 27-year-old and they're 18. But I mean, they keep me young, so I don't mind it for now.
Yeah, and I guess if you were not playing football, what would you be doing?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I was sort of at a bit of a stalemate. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I'd worked in warehousing for seven years, I think, and
you didn't have a problem reaching the top shelves, I guess.
No, definitely not. So I was pretty good for that job. But yeah, I'd sort of worked in that for quite a number of years, and I don't know, I was sort of at this point in my life where I still wanted to play sport at a high level, or as high as I could.
Yeah.
And I sort of just wasn't enjoying my job like when I first got there. So I was sort of had my options open to look for something different.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know what it was. So I was sort of a little bit lost for a couple of months there until I found out about pro kick, and then I just knew that this was the opportunity that was for me.
That's awesome.
Well, it's great to have you here. Thank you for taking some time with us. Glad we had a chance to meet you and find out a little bit about your background. It's a great story.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Bulls punter Andrew Stokes, stay with us. We're getting set for the Bulls in Tulsa this Saturday. Sam and I back to wrap up the show after this on the USF Football Radio Network. All right, Sam, we're back at it Saturday. Tulsa is in town. Had a chance to watch them against Memphis over the weekend, and a big win for the Golden Hurricane. They have some powerful running backs. Their quarterback was very sharp in that game as well. Nothing is easy. This is going to be a challenge on Saturday.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And what it seems is USF is week in and week out, they're facing teams with the same mold. Strong running game and quarterbacks who have weathered the storm, and they're playing some great football. And so I think week in and week out, USF has a phenomenal opportunity to continue to get better and continue to find what works for them. I think if you look on offense, we talked about it with Coach Scott, they're sustaining very long drives, and I thought it was very profound what he said. He said, you know, you don't want to get off the field in 27 seconds when you have a defense that's very depleted. And so it shows that they're playing very complementary football, making sure their offensive units and there is compensating for the lack of depth that they have on defense. And you don't see a lot of teams around the country getting it done. I think they still have some ways to go. Obviously, you see they need to progress in the run. Not in the defensive run game. They need to progress with things on offense, and then they took a step backwards with penalties. But I think Tulsa presents an amazing opportunity to get back in rhythm at home against a pretty strong opponent, and then, you know, hopefully start a run in conference play. And, you know, you get 5-6 games into this thing and maybe you still have an opportunity, but they have to change some of the things that they haven't done well for the first 5 games of this season.
I do like how the schedule plays out for the Bulls. Home game coming off the bye week, and they really needed this bye week. It looks like at least some of the injured players are going to be back. That's going to be really important.
It'll be very important, especially at the skill position. You take a look at getting one of your defensive backs back, and you take a look at getting a guy like Bryce Miller back. Although you've seen Timmy McClain go to different guys, in some games he's thrown to 7 or 8 receivers. Bryce Miller is a guy who has played a lot of football for USF, and he's a veteran guy who can help a young quarterback in Timmy McClain progress, and he's a reliable guy as well. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens when he gets back into the lineup. And then obviously USF is very battered in the defensive backfield, so it'll be important for them to get some of those guys back as well.
Noon against Tulsa, and then 7 p.m. against Temple 1 week from Saturday.